Hi, I'm Shaul. A viewer of this channel called Dr. Marcos suggested to make a comparison between one of my favorite wide lenses, the Nikon 35mm f1.4G, and a legend, the Zeiss Otus 28mm f1.4. The Otus family of lenses was Zeiss's attempt to make the ultimate optics. About 10 years ago, they developed this series of f1.4 primes at selected focal lengths that made really no compromise. It's as if the head of Zeiss reached to the head of the optical design department and told him, Herr Doktor, machen mich zu einem perfekten Weitwinkelobjektiv. The head of the optical department must have asked, well, this objective, 28 millimeter with a wide aperture, with no compromises, will be quite costly. It contains a lot of special glass types. The director of Zeiss would respond, well, that is no object, leave it to me. So we said, well, that lens would be rather large and heavy. And the Zeiss manager said, Herr Doctor, if it's perfect, our customers will not mind the size and the weight. So the optical designer said, you understand it will have no autofocus. And the manager replied, well, we are at Zeiss. No one expects autofocus. Our customers only expect the ultimate quality we can make. Thus, the Zeiss Otus Apo 28mm f1.4 Distagon was born. It's a lens that contains 17 elements in 14 groups. 8 of those 17 elements are made of what Zeiss calls abnormal dispersion glass. It's a glass type that we can confidently equate to extra low dispersion glass of some type. Maybe it's not as strong, maybe its Abbe number is a little bit lower than the best low dispersion glass out there. But it is still a low density glass. Now, interestingly, this lens contained a cluster, a big group of low dispersion glass towards the rear of the lens. And that block makes sure there will be no chromatic aberration allowed to develop. And this is what gives this lens a very high resolution. So let's move on to Dr. Marcus and watch the video he sent this channel comparing those two lenses. One of my favorite lenses in the world and one of the world's favorite lenses.
Change the subject. The subject is me now, looking to the lens. Now I am looking to 35mm Nikon lens, 1.4 at 1.4. Does it have a better look? Does it have a more organic look? Or the other one, Zeiss Otus 28mm. This one, Zeiss Otus 28mm f-mount lens. Which one is better? Which one has a more 3D pop? Which one has a more organic look? The video is not sponsored by Nikon, not sponsored by Zeiss. I will not tell you my opinion. You guess.
I will put up a poll. You will find a link to it in the description down below, in which I will ask you to simply write down which of those renderings you liked better. At least to my eyes, they are rather different. Those lenses were made with two very different philosophies, use cases in mind. The Nikon lens was made as an event optic. It has autofocus. It is designed to shoot events, documentary photography, at a high pace, and it is optimized for shooting people and other organic subjects. The Zeiss lens is of course manual focus, and it is best used for slower, more deliberate photography. It is basically at its best when mounted on a tripod and taking your time to shoot, making sure the composition is right, making sure the focus is right. So it is a lens designed for architecture, for studio, for reproduction, for landscapes, although I'm not sure natural landscapes will be best served by such a detailed lens. Zeiss never produced an autofocus version of the Zeiss Otus lenses. The 28mm specifically is a wide angle, so it can be used with zone focusing to photograph people in more dynamic situations, but I'm not sure it is really designed to do that. However, another manufacturer's produced a version of the Zeiss Otus 28 that has autofocus. Sigma introduced in 2015, I think, the Sigma Art 28mm f1.4, which has the same philosophy in mind as the Otus, only it added a rather fast, efficient autofocus. I had this lens, and I must admit I hated its output with a passion. That lens was not designed for shooting people, which is my preferred application of photography. Images made with it always looked rather flat to me, rather uninspiring. They fail to convey the energy of a human, evolving, dynamic situation. And it looked a little bit clinical, shall we say, when you compare it to a lens such as the Nikon 35mm f1.4G, the other lens that Dr. Marcus used in this comparison, you can say that it is more organic, perhaps, more rounded. Objects preserve their three-dimensional shape, and therefore it is easier to judge distances. And three-dimensional nature of the scene is better represented in those two-dimensional interpretations we look at on our screens or in prints. It's a lens that is made of 10 elements in 7 groups with no low dispersion glass whatsoever. So it is not as detailed, not as sharp, you might say, but it's not intended to convey what things look like. It is better at conveying the energy, the life, if you will. I will be rather curious to see which one of the representations you like better. So please take a minute and fill in that little survey. Zeiss Otus lenses were always a mystery to me. Zeiss is known for its 3D pop rendering. In fact, it's a trademark used by Zeiss to describe the look of the images its optics make. However, Zeiss refers to this effect when trying to explain it as a very fast, abrupt transition from sharpness to blur. And I suspect it is achieved by under-correcting spherical aberrations, which in effect decrease a little bit the depth of field. I never owned a Zeiss Otus lens. Those lenses are not made for mere mortals like myself. It is so eye-watering expensive that I would not even dare looking at image samples made by those lenses due to the danger of my gas taking over. That was a big omission in my visual literacy or education, if you will. So I would like to really thank Dr. Marcus for the opportunity he gave me and other viewers of my channel to see what all this magic is about. There is a thread that connects the optical design of a lens, the types of glass it contains with different chemical composition, to the theoretical performance of a lens described in the MTF chart, and to the real life results we may expect from the same lens. If we look at MTF charts, we can read them in different ways. However, lens manufacturers usually show us the contrast level at different distances from the center of the frame at two different frequencies. The first baseline frequency, typically at the top of the MTF chart, is representing contrast at 10 line pairs per millimeters. That is a low frequency level. It shows the separation between rather large objects in the scene. The bottom line represents the contrast levels at 30 line pairs per millimeter. That is a rather high frequency that represents the ability of the lens to show us small details in a nice, sharp, contrasty manner. The first phenomenon we can see in many MTF charts is the drop in contrast going from the center of the frame to the corner. And that could be attributed to two phenomena. One of them is field curvature, which is perhaps less of an issue in modern lenses. Those lenses typically contain some aspherical glass elements which correct for field curvature and should straighten the focal plane. So all the area of the image is at the same distance from the focal point inside the lens. It can be affected by lateral chromatic aberration too, which reduces the high frequency contrast, especially at wide apertures and typically at the periphery of the frame. It is hard to distinguish between those two phenomena just by looking at an MTF chart. But it doesn't really matter what causes this loss of contrast. In both cases, the effect of those aberrations are reduced as you stop the lens down. Another phenomenon rather evident in MTF charts is astigmatism. This is when the contrast levels at two axes of the image is not equal. Contrast is typically measured in two axes. The sagittal or radial axis and the tangential axis. They are perpendicular to each other, and according to the arrangement of optics in a lens, those two axes might differ in the amount of contrast they convey or confer. In effect, astigmatism causes some blurring to the very fine details, very fine edges in a scene. That phenomenon does not typically improve much as you stop the lens down. However, astigmatism levels that are less than 10% in contrast would not be very visible unless you, of course, enlarge the image on your screen and look at individual pixels. The viewer of the image, when looking at the full field, will not be able to tell that the image is soft. The third phenomenon we can read from an MTF chart is the loss of contrast as we increase frequency. And that is related to what we call dimensionality or true-to-life rendition. Very sharp lenses hardly lose any contrast when increasing the frequency from something like 10 lines per millimeter to 30 lines per millimeter. That creates an unnatural depiction of the scene. Our eyes work differently. They are rather sensitive to frequency. We see structures, shapes at lower frequencies much better than we can see small details. An optic that doesn't drop in contrast at very high frequencies does not look natural to us. It emphasizes edges and small details, and at the expense of the perceived contrast at lower frequencies. Lenses such as the Zeiss Otus 28 millimeters maintain about 80% contrast, even at the highest frequencies, while lenses such as the Nikon 35 millimeter are more like 50 to 60% contrast at those very high resolution, and thus they look more natural to our eyes. They are more similar to how we see the world in our daily life. It might be a little bit counterintuitive, but when looking in an MTF chart, I like lenses that keep the contrast level at high frequencies below about 70% for most of the area of the image. Of course, that level would increase a little bit as you stop the lens down, but In those types of lenses, it will never reach the very high contrast of clinical lenses at those high frequency levels. Lenses that have a lower contrast level at high frequencies are special lenses. They have a lower contrast, and it might confuse us sometimes. They don't always show their dimensionality, the pop, but when they do, they have no competition, in my eyes, for being able to convey life, convey the energy of a human situation. Last week at a Christmas party, I shot with two such lenses. The Thypoc 35mm f1.4, a lens I was contemplating for a long time and finally bought for my own use. And the much older Nikon DC 105mm, which is a lens made during the 90s, especially for making portraits. Both those lenses are not very detailed. They don't show you edges in a harsh, contrasty way. But for people, they are lovely. Let me show you a sample of images I took during that party. Standard MTF charts being focused on the focal plane only. In other words, they show us only what's in absolute focus. won't tell us much about the characteristics of the bokeh. They will not tell us anything about follow, from sharpness to blur. They will not tell us whether spherical aberrations are under or over corrected. That decision made by optical designers will affect the look of the bokeh, whether it's smooth or a little bit unruly. They won't tell us much about the cause for drop in contrast as we move from the center of the frame to the corner, whether it's field curvature or chromatic aberrations or spherical aberrations. And they will not tell us much, usually, about how much of an improvement we can expect as we stop the lens down, because most of them only show the behavior of the lens at the widest aperture. Now, you must remember that MTF chart shows you the theoretical performance of a lens before it is produced. There are some concessions sometimes made to the performance during assembly. There is some sample variation, and there are some inaccuracies made to the glass elements themselves while grinding them and polishing them. So the actual performance of a lens is seldom as good as depicted in MTF chart. Lens rentals made a lot of MTF charts based on multiple samples, and you can clearly see that when comparing the MTF chart published by the manufacturer to the actual measured values based on real-world produced lenses. Nevertheless, you can still learn a lot from the standard MTF chart. A slight drop in performance would not be evident at all to the viewer of our photographs. Right, I think that would do for today. Have a very happy 2026. If you want to support this channel, if you like those videos and want me to keep developing those ideas, please consider buying me a coffee. It's a nice gesture between gentlemen. You will find the link in the description below. So, thank you for watching, and see you again soon.